Ever wonder how a beautiful design on your computer screen becomes this massive, flawless piece of art on a physical wall? It's a pretty fascinating process, but, getting it right? That requires a very specific kind of expertise. So today, we're going to break down the playbook for a perfect installation, so you can really master the art of the mural.
And look, we're not talking about printing a small poster here. We're talking about taking a digital file and scaling it up to cover a 20-foot wide lobby wall, or maybe a hospital corridor, or an entire retail space. The scale is it's immense. And at that size, there is absolutely zero room for error.
So what happens in that crucial gap between the digital concept and the physical reality, right? How do you make sure that every single pixel, every color, every line translates perfectly? That's the big question we're going to answer right now. Okay, first up, it's really important to get that the technology itself has completely changed the game. There's a revolution happening in interior branding, and it's all about moving away from those older methods and embracing something way more integrated and efficient. This slide just lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got the old way, using vinyl wraps. You've seen it, right? It often resulted in those visible seams that could bubble up, peel, and just trap dirt. And don't even get me started on the shipping delays and the huge disruption during installation. But on the right, that's the new way, printing directly onto the wall. It's completely seamless, it's incredibly fast, and it creates almost no disruption to a space that's still being used.
The benefits here are pretty huge. We're talking about installations that are done in under 5 hours. The final result is perfectly seam-free, which means it looks cleaner, and there are fewer things that can go wrong down the line. And because it's all done on site, you totally eliminate shipping delays, which makes it perfect for consistent national rollouts. On top of all that, it's more sustainable than vinyl, and it really helps cut down on all that visual signage clutter.
So, the tech is a massive leap forward, but to really take advantage of it, you have to master the technical side. So let's start with the first and maybe the most critical pillar, resolution. And we're not talking about your average print job here, we are talking about pixels at an architectural scale. Aha! This is the question, isn't it? It haunts every designer working on a big project like this. You definitely don't want a blurry mess, but you also don't want to create a file so gigantic it crashes your computer every time you try to open it. So, what's the sweet spot? How much is just right?
Well, the answer isn't about your printer's DPI. It's all about a concept called effective PPI, which stands for pixels per inch. Think of it like a mosaic. When you're right up close, you can see every single tile, right? But as you step back, it all blends together into a smooth, clear image. Effective PPI is about choosing the right tile size based on the mural's final dimensions, and this is the crucial part, it's viewing distance. The farther away people are, the lower the PPI you actually need.
This chart here shows you exactly how that viewing distance changes the PPI you need. So for a wall that's going to be viewed up close, like in a narrow hallway, you'll see here you need a higher PPI, somewhere around 120 to 150. But for, say, a big lobby atrium where people are much further back, the chart shows you can get away with a lower PPI, sometimes even as low as 60. This is basically the expert shortcut to getting resolution right every single time. And to put that into perspective, for that 20-foot wall we were talking about earlier, at a pretty standard 120 ppi, your digital file needs to be 28,800 pixels wide. That is a massive digital canvas, and it just shows you why planning this stuff out from the very beginning is absolutely essential. Okay, so once you understand the massive scale you're working at, you have to choose the right file format. And this brings us to that classic showdown, vector versus raster.
The difference is actually pretty simple, but it's so important. Vector graphics are made of mathematical paths. That just means they can be scaled up or down infinitely and they will always stay perfectly razor sharp. Raster graphics, on the other hand, they're made of tiny squares, pixels. They're totally dependent on resolution, and if you try to scale them up too much, they're going to get blurry. Simple as that.
So, when do you use vector? Well, for anything that needs to be perfectly crisp no matter how big it gets. As you can see here, we're talking logos, all of your typography, icons, wayfinding graphics, and any kind of flat illustration. For these things, vector is just non-negotiable. And raster, you're going to use that for any images that are just naturally made of pixels. This means all of your photography, any complex textures, digital paintings, and those detailed 3D renders. The trick, of course, is making sure your raster file has the right effective PPI from the get-go.
All right,
You've got your resolution dialed in, you've picked the right file formats, now for the one that can cause the most stress and, let's be honest, the most expensive mistakes: color. How do you make sure your brand's specific shade of blue on a screen looks the exact same on a giant concrete wall? This four-step process, this is the professional workflow. First, start with a wide gamut RGB space. Second, provide your brand colors as LAB values. Now, unlike CMYK or RGB, LAB color is based on human perception, which makes it device-independent and really the most accurate way to specify a color. Next, use softproof using the printer's specific ICC profile. But the final, most critical step, you have to get a real swatch printed on the actual wall surface for approval. No shortcuts. And here's a pro tip that really separates the experts from everyone else. The wall is not a neutral canvas. Its own color, its texture, is it smooth drywall or rough brick? And the lighting in the room will all change how that final color looks. That is why on-site testing is so vital. Whew! We've covered a lot of technical ground. So now, let's pull everything we've learned together into one single actionable tool: the expert's pre-flight checklist for a perfect handoff to your print partner. This is that moment where all that careful prep work really pays off. It's about making sure the team on site has exactly what they need to bring your vision to life without any of those last-minute, heart-stopping emergencies. All right, this is your recipe for success. Build your file at a 1:1 scale. Double-check that effective PPI. Make sure all your logos and type are vectorized. Always embed your color profiles. Add a few inches of bleed for trimming. And critically, please, outline your fonts. This converts them to shapes so there are no surprise missing font issues. And finally, package the whole shebang so there are absolutely no missing links. This quote right here, it really says it all. The work you do on your computer, way before anything ever goes to print, that is what truly determines the final quality. An impressive concept is one thing. A flawless installation is something else entirely. You know, after all this technical preparation, the pixels, the vectors, the color profiles, it all comes down to this one simple thing. Your walls are a massive canvas for your brand story. Getting the execution perfect just ensures that story is told with absolute clarity and impact. So, the real question is your message ready for the spotlight?